Hello lads and lassies and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today we're going to be talking about what would have happened if Goku and Frieza switched places. I've had this topic in my back pocket for quite some time, although just never got around to covering it. I don't know why, I guess I just found other stories more alluring. Although this one is finally up to the chopping block, and I hope you all enjoy. There's no point asking you to like the video right now since you haven't even really watched it, although at the end if you liked it I would greatly appreciate if you were to hit that button, since it helps me out a lot algorithmically and would really just be cool to see. But without wasting any more time, let's get into the story of this What If. It's age 734. King Cold has his second-born child. He's already had Cooler, although that child proved to be a disappointment, and was discarded long ago. Whereas Frieza is going to be the Emperor's pride and joy. He's born with a power level in the 120 million range, which is insane. It even surpasses King Cold's very own power. Although before the Emperor has time to raise his own kid to be a fit successor, the king was murdered in his very own home by the legendary Super Saiyan, a man that goes by the name of Kakarot. Berry Blue, the king's right-hand woman, would be quick on her feet, grabbing Frieza and rushing him to a space pod, before then inputting the coordinates of a seemingly peaceful planet with very few strong people there. She would frantically close the door to the ship before then sending it off into orbit. And even though she was able to give Frieza a second chance at life, she was not so lucky, quickly being killed thereafter by the same man who killed her leader. Although this coup d'etat was not out of goodwill or any sense of justice, it was just a man who trained for years on end to acquire ultimate power, and after reaching that state, decided to use said strength to kill the rather beloved leader of a universal government. He might not have been a saint, but he also wasn't a monster. King Cold in this timeline was actually a pretty good dude, and just wanted what was best for the universe, and his son was going to be raised to do the same. However, now his life trajectory was sent in an entirely different direction. Not only will he never get to rule over the universe like his father first intended, but now he'll not even get the chance to know any of the family he was going to have. Kakarot debates going after Frieza's pod, however he's most likely just going to be stranded in nowhere space. Berry Blue probably assumed she'd be able to get away as well and find Frieza once he was far enough away from the Super Saiyan. However, Berry Blue is a pile of blood and guts on the floor, and Frieza, even if he were to grow up, is still no threat to the legendary warrior. He's not only the leader of the Saiyans by birthright as the legendary Super Saiyan, but he's also now taken over King Cold's entire empire, meaning he has multiple armies at his disposal, and is practically the ruler of, well, everything. There's nowhere Frieza can go that Goku won't eventually find him, and when he does, he'll make sure King Cold isn't the only member of his family with their head on a spike. As for the infant Frost Demon himself, he would land on Earth only a couple days later. He would have had to go a while without food and water, but his race is ultra resilient, so he was able to tough it out and survive, at least long enough to arrive on Mount Paozu, a hilly area covered with grass and forests as far as the eye can see. Grandpa Gohan is the only human that resides there, and everything else is mostly just birds, deer, and other sorts of wildlife. And I assure you, Frieza's arrival does not go unnoticed, not because it's another person coming to Mount Paozu, but rather because it results in a devastating explosion. There's a crater a couple meters long in diameter, and when Grandpa Gohan comes to check it out, he's surprised to see that there's a small lizard inside of what appears to be a spaceship. He is a little wary since this is definitely more alien than Goku was in the main series, but at the same time, it is still a child, and Grandpa Gohan knows that a child in need needs taking care of, so he decides to bring him back to his house, at least until his parents arrive. Granted, he is terrified of what might come when his parents do arrive, since this child alone is incredibly powerful, but he's not going to let that deter him from taking care of a helpless infant. He needs help, and Grandpa Gohan's going to provide. Over the next couple hours, rather than taking this time to rest like he has for the past few days, Frieza instead decides to eat Grandpa Gohan out of house and home. Everything that the Elder can provide, Frieza would gobble up in record time. He's incredibly hungry, and his thirst is only quenched by the tastiest of juices. There was even a time when Freezy Pop tried to steal some of Grandpa Gohan's late-night drinks, such as red wine, which, although the infant would have adored if he actually was able to try it, Grandpa Gohan was able to keep him from. It was difficult since Frieza could annihilate a galaxy if he wanted to, but Grandpa Gohan was able to keep the bottle away from him, at least for now. Either way, it would only take a little while before Frieza opened up to talking. He might only be a week old, but he is still very intelligent. Just as smart as he is strong, he would pick up on the English language in no time at all, being able to easily communicate with his adoptive grandfather. He doesn't remember much before his time traveling through the stars, since that's all he's really known, although he is able to vaguely picture a man with spiky blonde hair and a power that even surpassed his own. As his memory begins to clear up, he puts the pieces together. It was a warlord, somebody who was hungry for more power, and since he already had the necessary strength to take over other land, other territory, he was going to stop at nothing until he did. So this very same spiky-haired man killed his father, and hearing this, Grandpa Gohan vows to teach Frieza the way of martial arts, the turtle school style of fighting, so that when the time comes, he can get justice for King Cold. To a point, Frieza questions why he needs these teachings, since if he only does a couple weeks of easy training, he should be able to greatly outclass this Super Saiyan, and even though that may be true, there's no point in having extraordinary power if you don't know how to use it. An ant might be stronger than a spider, but that's why the arachnid has webs. It can ensnare its foe and still win in the long run. Frieza will be able to much more easily beat the Super Saiyan and won't have to put his life on the line, as long as he knows how to properly use all of the power at his disposal. Although, as for gaining brute strength, Frieza will be doing that as well, except Grandpa Gohan knows how to do that better than Frieza could on his own. He knows how to do training because Grandpa Gohan has first-hand experience with it. He wasn't born ultra-powerful. In fact, he still isn't. Although, given enough time, even he could get stronger than the Super Saiyan. So, with this speech heard, Frieza would decide to learn under the Turtle School Master. Before then, in the following years, finding the founding member of the Turtle School, that being Master Roshi, and training underneath him as well. And even though Frieza would only be about 5 years old, he would look about the same way he did on planet Namek, since we have no reason to believe that Frieza shows any real signs of aging over the years. He didn't look any different from when he destroyed planet Vegeta to his time on Namek gathering the Dragon Balls, so I assume that his race just doesn't show very many signs of actual aging. This means, aside from a lot of growing in strength and a decent amount of growing in height, Frieza doesn't look any different when he arrives to Mount Paozu to when Bulma does the same. And when the blue-haired girl does appear to take the Dragon Ball, Frieza's more than willing to hand it over. Neither he nor Grandpa Gohan had any reason to hold on to it. It was just a pretty cool artifact they had from a while back. And since it turns out there's an actual purpose to him, there's no reason not to let somebody else fulfill it, since they certainly have no interest to. Although after Bulma leaves with the Dragon Ball, Frieza does begin to follow her coattails, since it seems pretty interesting, this whole dragon thing. He's never really encountered an actual dragon before, plenty of dinosaurs, but no wish-granting dragons. And this turns out to be the right move, as only a couple days after leaving Mount Paozu, she would encounter a desert bandit known as Yamcha, who Frieza would have to jump in to defend her from, because even though he probably wasn't going to actually rob her, he didn't have the guts for that, there was always a chance she could get seriously hurt. So Frieza steps in, and being a pretty good guy, he decides to leave Yamcha alive, although with pretty serious, albeit non-lethal wounds. Frieza's a good guy, but he's not just gonna let some crook off the hook that easy. So the two leave once more, although this time Bulma knows she's being accompanied by her guardian angel on her adventure. Not gonna lie, it feels so weird referring to Frieza as an angel no matter the context, but I guess that's kind of the point of this story. And with a powerhouse like Frieza accompanying Bulma, who has a radar to detect all the orbs, the Dragon Ball hunt goes swiftly and easily, just like most of their battles, if you can even call it that. It's mostly just Frieza sees somebody that's a threat to the group and takes them down easy peasy. Even the legendary Master Rabbit falls to Frieza's incredible might, and the Pilaf gang are taken down pretty easy too. With all the wish orbs in their possession, they would head back to Grandpa Gohan's home. That way he can watch as Shinron is summoned, and when the dragon comes forth, he offers them any wish that they could possibly desire, to which Bulma asks for the perfect boyfriend. But then, in a shocking turn of events, a portal opens in front of Bulma, and the Prince of All Saiyans, Vegeta, steps through. He looks rugged and distraught, being weak from all of the constant torture, being proclaimed as a false prince. After Kakarot rose to power, he declared himself the king of the Saiyans, not only murdering Vegeta's father, but also enslaving the prince. He was put through grueling torture and punishment just for Kakarot's amusement. He found it funny to watch as those beneath him squirm, especially those who once thought they had such mighty power.